I don't care. Listen, that's just content for me. And content for me means I have an excuse to annoy people on my mailing list. So I don't care. You have to redeem them and let me know what kind of sample pack you want, and I will make you a
Remember
sample
to
pack.
save.
Remember to save. Hey everybody, don't forget to save. Saving's important. If you don't save, you'll lose your work, and then you'll be sad. Okay, well, you have to let me know what you want. Okay, so, oh my God, so many bits. Thank you so much. What kind of sample pack do you want? I will make you a sample pack of anything that you want, within reason. Like, I'm not gonna make a pack of me slapping my butt or something. That's kind of weird. Why would you ask that? Plant a tree. Oh, thank you so much. Plant a tree. We're up to 6. But yeah, this song, for all intents and purposes, is complete. So let's just hang out and chat for a little bit. How y'all doing? You don't have to answer right now if you don't have a particular thing in mind. But yeah, I will release that mid next month. Because I do my normal sample pack at the start of the month, and I've been adding to my micro sample pack library mid-month. So I have an excuse to bug people at the start of the month, and I have an excuse to bug people at the middle of the month. It's perfect. I like bugging people. I have an idea for a mini pack, so you'll save up. Thank you, Bitcoin. I appreciate that. Yeah, like I'm real pleased with how this one turned out, especially considering the song that we made initially was kind of bad. Not bad. It just didn't have the focus that I wanted, and it kind of just fell apart. But you know, that happens sometimes. I'm not beating myself up over it. But yeah, this one turned out really cool. And I think that speaks to the power of just finding random presets in your library and using that as an inspiration point, not necessarily to build your whole song, but just to create an atmosphere in which you can infuse your personal style into the music. Because really all I did for this song is I went through and I just I listened to a bunch of presets, and one of them was just like, oh, wow, this has a really cool mood to it, and I like it a lot. And that's how the rest of the song came about. It was like, well, I have this, so naturally what would follow this would be this. So I had to start with arpeggios, and once you have the arpeggios, you have this really nice structure chord. And that chord can then have a bass line to it. And that bass line, I'm just chronicling the last 2 hours. I'm just kind of filling space while this renders. But that bass line can have a lot of character to it, which actually, like, again, I love Massive for bass lines. I'm always impressed with what you can do with that. So with that bass line, then we can put in some drums, and with those drums we can kind of, it's just a self-perpetuating cycle at that point. It all kind of feeds off of each other, and the song just kind of coalesces through that. And I think that's really cool. Reinventing the wheel every time. And I absolutely used to be like that. I used to be one of those people where it's like, well, if you use a preset, you're just letting somebody else work for you, and it's not your song then. It's like, well, not really, because you're just using it as a point of inspiration. Like, if I wanted to, I could go and take that initial sample, that initial preset that I used, and tweak it a little bit to fit what I wanted. But honestly, the way it sounded was great. So it's just like, why the hell not? There's no reason not to mess with what works or replace it. Yeah, it's like I could be like, oh, this sounds great. Let's rebuild it. Let's rebuild it as close as we can. And then I would spend a half hour doing sound design on something that already exists. And it's like, well, the point of those presets is to save time so you can actually get your ideas out, because the important thing is getting your ideas out there. And yeah, obviously it's important to sound original too, but that's through your style. That's not through the instruments that you use, like preset wise. And it's so easy as a music producer, and many of you are music producers as well, to recognize something where it's just like, oh man, they use that Vengeance sample. Oh, what a hack. And it's just like, yeah, sure, you used a sample. Oh boy. But the general listening audience, they don't give two farts like what's been recycled or not. Like they either don't care or they don't notice. So it's like, if you're catering to the 1% of the audience who are music producers, that's awesome. Like, that's great. And there are definitely music producers out there that do that. Like Savant is one of them. I don't know if he's still doing stuff, but Savant was a huge music producer like 5 years ago, I think. And like, he made incredible music that was all like custom and super complex and super detailed. And that's awesome. It's great. It's music for music producers because it tickles that like itch that you have where it's just like, oh, I want to listen to something new and something like completely that I've never heard before. And that's great. But that's not necessarily general audience listening, which isn't to say that they don't like that, but yeah. I'm going to find a loop point here. Yeah, I'll do that. Just have to render out the loop now for Patreon. But yeah, I think that it's really interesting that you can like make music for different types of people. Like, you have the music producers that have a certain thing, and there's people who like the pop music that's not necessarily complicated, but it's catchy. And I think that there's a whole lot that you can do to just like try to find your own niche. Try to find, I don't know why I'm giving everybody life advice right now. I guess I'm just kind of, I don't really want the stream to end, I guess. I just like chatting right now. But it's that whole idea of like, you don't have to box yourself into a particular Papa Ben's Music and Life Advice Corner featuring Ben. You don't have to box yourself into a particular style. Like, last week I did this kind of chill hop piano vibe, and before that I was making house music for like a month straight. And it's like, just sounds cheesy, but follow your heart. Like, do what feels right in the moment. And I got into a Twitter discussion. It wasn't an argument. It was a discussion on how I market myself online. And a lot of how I market myself online is just to release things. It's just to put things out in the world, because that gives me an excuse to talk about myself, and not in a narcissistic way, but in a way that makes people aware that I do things, that I make music, that I make video games, that I make weird art sometimes. And it's like, that builds a community, and that community doesn't necessarily care whether I make chill hop or EDM or like ambient music or new age piano. Like, none of that matters. People, hopefully anyway, my goal, come here to watch me work. They don't come here to watch me make a specific genre of music. And this goes for a lot of streamers as well. I talked to Shaka Panda about this a little bit yesterday with a podcast that just came up. That just went online. Shaka Panda's moving from Mixer to Twitch because the audience on Mixer is primarily focused on like BR games, battle royale games, like shooter games, console games, basically. And the content that he creates isn't really meshing with that. Sorry, I was off camera. Meshing with that. So he's going to a platform that is a little bit more. I'm not getting into a discussion about Mixer. I have my opinions on that, and you're not wrong, Em, but that's not the point. Like, the point is that he's following the audience to a place where he can better get himself out there. And really, that's the thing. You want to create a community, and you want to foster that community in a way that's like interesting and cool. And if you're not sharing the things that you do, you can't build that community. And if you're not, it's like this self-perpetuating cycle. You gotta always be making something. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something. And let me actually get that tweet out, because I distilled it down into a single tweet. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. There we go. To distill into one tweet: make lots of things. They don't have to be perfect. Everything you make gives you a reason to let people know you exist. People will follow you, or they won't. That's okay. build a community of people who like you, not your work, and they may hire you. In this context, we were talking about like getting work as a music producer, but I think that it's important as any content creator online, where it's not necessarily about releasing the best work that you've ever made. It's about releasing anything that you do, because, and it sucks because you don't want to sound like a narcissist. You don't want to sound like, well, everybody has to pay attention to me. But really, if you want people to patronize you, either through Patreon or through other traditional methods, like Bandcamp or Etsy or whatever you sell your stuff, I mean, that's marketing. Marketing isn't convincing people. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. Marketing isn't convincing people that your work is good. Like, that is for them to judge. You can't tell people, well, you can't tell most people. You can't tell people this is good and you'll like it, because you can't make decisions for them. What you can do is you can remind them that you exist until they try it, and either they like it or they don't. But marketing is about just reminding people that you exist until they're like, I've seen that around a lot. Let's give it a try. And then once they've made that decision, they'll either like you or they won't. And that's fine either way. Like, again, you can't dictate that decision. But the next time that they see your marketing, they'll be reminded you exist, and then they'll go back and patronize your work more if they like you. And it's the thing, it's just like, there's times where I'm like watching a TV show or I'm watching a movie or something, and like somebody's like eating McDonald's, and it's just like, shit, McDonald's actually does sound pretty good right now. And that's exactly what marketing is. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure. I go there like once every couple months, but I like McDonald's. I think that it's great. And it's just like having that subtle reminder. It's like, oh yeah, McDonald's does exist, doesn't it? And then it's like, oh, well, now that's in my head. And eventually, probably within a week or so, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. I should go and check it out again. But it's like, that is what marketing is. Marketing isn't like convincing you that the product is good, or at least it shouldn't be. A lot of bad marketing is just like, this is the best, these guys suck. And that's bad marketing on a lot of levels. It's disingenuous, and it's just creating a competitive atmosphere. That's the tail of the loop. It's creating a competitive atmosphere for no reason. And it's just like, that's not what marketing is. Marketing is about just constantly reminding people that you exist. And eventually they'll get to the point, eventually those people will get to the point where they'll either check you out, know that they like you, and patronize you when they're reminded of it, or they'll just ignore you. All three options are okay. But to do that, the only way that you can actually get that done is via making things and having an excuse to remind people that you exist. Because if you just post the same thing over and over and over and over, people will get sick of that. Like, I know that a couple game dev people that I follow online, or followed in the past, and people still retweet their stuff, they're harping on the same thing, like the same image, not even the same project, but like the same image that was popular at one point, like 6 months ago. They repost it every week. And it's just like, oh, remember this game? Check it out. And it's like, well, no, that's not new content. That's not interesting content. That's not good marketing. Good marketing is getting something that catches my eye that's related to the thing, but it's fresh and new and actually grabs my attention. So I think that a lot of what you can do is just make stuff, make basic things, make something, again, like a 2-hour track challenge, spend 2 hours a week to make a song and post that. And if you have something new like that, Invisible Funnel. Yeah. Sorry, I haven't really been reading chat. I'm on a rant right now. But if you have something new to talk about every week, you're going to go far. Because making something new every week is hard. Like, this has not been the easiest project for me. The 2 Hour Track Challenge has been going on for...
Remember to save.
Hey, everybody. Remember to save. The 2 Hour Track Challenge has been going on for 4.5 years. This is, let me check. This is like song 230, I think. 234. Yeah, 234. Like, this project has been going on for 4.5 years. And having the excuse to talk about like a new song that I put out every week has been really good for my ability to market myself, because having a new song every week gives me content to talk about. It gives me content to sell. It gives me content that I could post to my Patreon and keep them happy. And ancillary to all that, it also allows me to sharpen my skills as an artist. It gives me dedicated time to explore and try new ideas. Like this whole project right here, this is not really within my wheelhouse when it comes to style. Like, this is very minimal in ways that I'm not super comfortable with. So yeah, I think that it's just really valuable to, as an artist, as a creator who spends a lot of time online, which I'm guessing most of you are, to just always sit down and make stuff, to always just be a part of the ecosystem where you're putting new content out. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it is another chance to give people that, oh, I like this, or no, I don't like this. And the more chances that you give people, the more frequently people are going to say, oh yeah, I do like this. I should look into this more. I should check out this guy's Spotify, or I should check out this guy's DeviantArt, or whatever. Like, posting something consistently just allows you to get more engagement with people. Oh, geez. Hi, Twiggly. Hi, Twiggly. Thank you for waiting until the end of my rant before doing that. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I've got for that. I think that it's just so important. It's just so important to keep talking. And I know people have issues talking about themselves. God, that's a good synth. People have issues talking about themselves, and I do have one bit of advice on this, and then I'm going to wrap the stream up. Although we should find somebody to raid, because we've got a good amount of people here, and I don't want to send you into the shadow realm. But one piece of advice about talking about yourself. Why is this? Shh, Ben, shh, I'm talking. Game's Done Quick is going. Cool. Talking about yourself. It's really hard, and it's awkward, and it kind of sucks sometimes. One thing I would recommend is to dissociate. I keep saying disassociate. That's not a word. It's dissociate. Dissociate yourself from the work that you're doing. So instead of saying, oh, this is my album, this is my music, or this is my art, say, this is the art, this is the album. Like, talk about it as if it's like a third party in this conversation. Because then it creates a degree of separation from the work that you're doing, or the work that you've done against yourself. So when you talk about it, you're talking about a project, not, well, this is my project, and this is a part of me, this is part of my soul, and stuff like that. It's like that gives like that pretentious artist vibe that it makes it really hard to talk about. But if you are talking about it just as an entity that, yes, once was related, like that came from you. But if you're just talking about it like that, it's so much easier to talk about it. And like when people buy an album from me on Bandcamp, I reply to everybody, and I send them a little thank you email. And I think that that's important to do too, to engage with somebody who has supported you financially. But I send them a thank you being like, thank you so much for supporting this music, not my music, but supporting this music, because it helps me out. And yes, I do talk about myself in that regard, but I'm not talking about the music as in like, this is mine, this is me. And I think that little degree of separation helps a lot. Same with, I just released a game on itch.io called Death Drives a Bus. And I talk about this as like, check out this game. Oh yeah, you can see that I've made a whole like $5 off of it since I released it. That's fine, whatever. But like, it's a little 1-bit pixel art game, little puzzle game. A lot of people liked it. Like, it's cool. It's great. It's not really an ad for it, but it's like when I talk about it on Twitter, I'm like, hey, I released this game. Check out this game. Not my game, but it's this game. It's this game. It's a game that exists, that came from me, yes, but it's a game that exists. And I think that little delineation helps quite a bit when it comes to just talking about your artwork in a way that's not awkward, because it gives people a little bit more leniency on being critical. And I mean, that's a whole nother topic, just being a little bit more thick-skinned, because some people don't really have the ability to say things nicely. But that's a whole different thing.